Question of the day. What is your favorite two ideas? Sports / miniatures game. And when I say miniatures game, I don't mean Warhammer. I mean a quick miniature style board game. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we're taking a look at a game today that mixes the two of these. It is a sports style kind of Running Man, roller death, whatever that's called. It's a fighting sports arena sort of deal, set in a really cool cyberpunk universe. This is Aristeia. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm from Alabama. We just, we're throwing it out there. I'm giving it my best shot. Aristeia is what I guessed. Aristeia's got some really cool ideas behind it. It is a fighting game inside of a ring. You're trying to score points, so it's not all about the fighting. It's trying to score and getting in points areas and all that sort of stuff. But we're taking a look at the Primetime expansion too, which takes the game from a 2-player game up to a 4-player game. It splits up the mechanics a little bit. So let's talk about how this game works, and we'll come back up and talk final thoughts right now. First and foremost, I want to show you just some of the components here, some of the miniatures we're talking about. These are just such excellent quality, these miniatures. So here's Wild Bill. I mean, that's just a gorgeous miniature. Just the detail in the pants, it's just so much detail in each of these little figures. I'm going to show you everybody. They look so cool. All different styles too. Some of them kind of have that almost Alita Battle Angel look to, kind of cyberpunk, steampunk. And then you got Wild Bill, of course, and then let's see, we've got this guy. This is his name totally just 8-Ball, I believe. He looks, I can't tell what he is exactly, but he's very cool. There's a ton of detail in these figures. Each of them with their own kind of artistic style, but all of them are dynamic in the way they're posed too. Is what I really love. Look at this monster here. Like, this dude is awesome. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different style. Everybody's got a different this is the cat girl, I believe. So everybody's got a different style and a different look and a different type of character, but they all just have so much incredible detail in these figures, which really goes with kind of this universe. Which the basic board that you would have seen in the beginner game or the base game is slightly different because this one is made for multiplayer, whereas this one was definitely made for 2 players. So they've kind of spaced some of the scoring areas out. And there are now spaces that are out there as far as special items that are going to get placed out in this multiplayer mode, as well as a lot of tweaks and a lot of differences that are going to change this as you play it versus the 2-player version. Most notably, obviously, would be this difference in how initiative order works. So because there aren't just 2 people playing, you're going to try to figure out who's going in what order in a 4-person game. And so what's going to happen is you're going to play your 2 cards, their 2 cards, their 2 cards, their 2 cards, and then you're going to flip up, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4. And then still, whoever has the highest initiative of that pairing will go first in that order. And so you'll play those rounds just like the old game. Person with the most points at the end of 5 rounds wins. Let me go through and show you the anatomy of the cards really quick in case you've never played the original version. Up here you've got your things like initiative, that's your initiative order, your speed, your energy level. Energy is how many action points you get when you use them to move, etc. You're going to gain your speed value. If you want to move, it takes 2 energy points to move, but you would gain your entire speed value. You're going to get your energy value on your turn, so you could also spend those on these actions down here, which is what the cost to the left is listed, like eat my fudging. I'm not really sure what that means, but you have that there. You can displace a target, and then you're going to roll these die to attack them. Minimum range of 1, maximum range of 3. These are going to be your defense, your brawn, and your agility. Those are done for die rolls in which you need to escape while standing next to someone. So in case you're standing next to someone and you want to escape that space next to them, you would have to roll a die roll to get away from them based on your agility versus their brawn, etc. They all have different powers. So I'm going to kind of flick through and show you the different powers of the base set here. We've got Hexer. It's Hexer, but so she's like a cyberpunk witch. I really love this universe. I think it's such a cool thing that they're bringing like the Scarlet Witch sort of type character into cyberpunk. So Hexer, see her powers down there. Gotcha. So you're going to slow people down as well as give them the immobilized state. Evade Retro, it displaces targets, but it's a really good attack. I haven't seen, let's see. Yeah, so here we go. Called shot, so none of these are close-up shots. So with her first 2 attacks here, you're going to have to use them at least 3 spaces away. So she is a sniper and supposed to be a sniper. So you notice all the other abilities that are on there. The other thing are these exclamation marks right here, which are very important. Those are your switches. So when you roll a switch, those are going to take place before you're really settling the die. So attacker and defender switches will go, and you'll get to take advantage of those. Now you also have things like traits and automatic skills, etc. down here that are always there. This says your targets cannot gain the benefits cover, so she can shoot around cover, which are basically, when you're drawing line of fire, you're going to be pointing from one vertex of your hexagon to all the vertices of the other hexagon. So for instance, if you're shooting this one is clear line of sight. It's technically not clear because all of the vertices one vertice cannot see every single one of these because of this, and she's adjacent to that kind of terrain. Therefore, those block spaces will in fact count as her being in cover. So this person now gets the benefit of being in cover, which is a bonus to the die. But the rest of the characters, they all just have really cool powers. You know, Pravati, reset, remove all the states on a target. So she's kind of a healer, so you'd want her on your team to really heal, especially if you had someone to kind of go crazy. You got Wild Bill here, who's got cybernetic arms as a Wild West gambler, which I love that. Triple switches there. It says after the resolution step of this attack, you may perform twin pistols again against a different target without spending any action points. So all of the characters are really well thought out. They really fit and feel with their theme. So I'm a big fan of how the characters look. First of all, we showed you the miniatures, but how they play is just super cool. So I'll show you one more thing. As far as the die roll, these die have different symbols on them: attack, defense, etc. You're going to always do a roll against somebody pretty much, and so certain ones are these super ultra symbols that will cancel, and then some are critical hits and critical successes, but based on the different colors of die, they have different results on them. Kind of reminds me of Batman Gotham City Chronicles, but those exclamation marks are those the things that we talked about, the strikes. I can't remember the name of them now, but the things that let you do the superpowers. But all the different dice have different results on them, which always ends up being really cool in how you determine, okay, who should I use to be my attacker, who should be my support person. Essentially what will happen is you're going to set up the scenario based on what you pick out of the instruction booklet or one of the apps or websites or things like that. You're going to set up the scenario based on that. Now with the multiplayer map, you're playing four teams of 2 players instead of 2 teams of 4 players. So that's the base set, plus you have all the extra characters that you could use if you're not using the base set. Now, normally in the 2-player game, you'd have this board for your characters and your action spaces, which is nice because it slots really nicely into the board, but since we're playing 4 players, we're not going to use that. So you won't use the infirmary when it comes to playing the 2-player game, the multiplayer arena as well. So none of this is going to be the same. You're going to be using this different kind of running board here with, you know, it's much smaller, but it keeps track of the rounds and everything like this, but no infirmary, nothing like that. So again, instead of those, you're going to be using these control panels, which are nice. So each team of 2 is going to get a control panel to keep track of their stuff on. So it kind of simplifies everything. This expansion is a bit of a somewhat of a fix, but also a nice expansion into multiple players, but it does things to collapse stuff that you wouldn't need when playing with 4 players, and it takes less table space, which is nice to see an expansion be actually conscious of a higher player count but less space. There are more tactics cards, and those tactics cards that we saw from the base game, basically the same tactics cards that you see here that do different things during the game. So for instance, this would be Sorodo's before the critical block and switches of an opponent's roll, nullify one of the opponent's dice. So you can play these tactics cards and things like that. But also, what I really love are the new special space tokens. There are a ton of these special space tokens, and they go out there and they seed the map based on the scenario, and they do different things. So you have, you know, impose freezing and mobilize states, etc. Let's see, some of these are like poison traps and danger healing. Some of these are damage, and all sorts of different places to put onto the board that make the game special and makes each time you play special and different. Plus there's some running projectiles out there that are going to run out there. Crazy koalas and mad traps are going to attack you, which is always nice. I will say one of the things I was very impressed with in the base game was just how good the rule book was. It's rare that you see a miniatures game that has such tight rules, especially a miniatures game based on kind of arena combat and kind of scoring zones. This one just does it so well. I mean, this is the primetime expansion, rule book, and it's really laid out as well. But I mean, the base game and these sets of rules will really help you get into the game. Plus, in case you needed help, there's still a reference guide with all of the different powers and kind of what happens to do in certain situations. You know, it shows you how to do the full setup. There's a quick reference sheet on the back. What I'm mostly getting out of this in the, you know, kind of how to play, and again, it's an expansion, so if you know how to play Aristeia already, you're gonna, like we mentioned, you're gonna take your actions, you're gonna use your energy, you're gonna score points based on the objectives or based on this being in scoring zones and you know, taking out enemies and all sorts of things like that. But at the end of the day, it is a nice, simplified, and I say simplified, what I mean by that is I don't mean that it's bloated by its own rules. Like, the game is just, it fits really well in its universe, and it plays really well out here. One thing I'd like to see more of, and I get it because it's kind of a hexadome, sort of like a cyber thing, I'd like to see a little bit more detail on the board instead of these just locking spaces, almost some things out on the board just to flavor it up a little bit. But other than that, you can't knock the game with production. I mean, everything, even from just these being certain shapes and looking like that, it really, really, really just looks great on the table. But not to mention all of the art of the different tactics cards. And what I really love is how they've managed to take a game that was definitely designed for 2 players and really fit the rules for 4 players. And it does it in a really nice way to where you don't feel like you're sacrificing anything or you're playing a version of the game. You feel like you're playing just an extension, a new way to play Aristeia. So definitely go check these games out if you're interested in that kind of, you know, sportsy combat sort of games, but definitely in a very cool cyberpunk universe with some awesome art and awesome production value. So that is all I can say there. Let's go back up and talk final thoughts. He's a panda. He's a panda. That's what he's a panda, but also is, what's the word when it's not a metaphor, it's not a symbol, it's a personified panda, if that makes any sense. So that's what 8-Ball is. Yeah, so that is Aristeia and the primetime expansion for this. It is a neat, let's talk about looks first of all. The game is gorgeous, right? You heard me say a minute ago that the miniatures are phenomenal. The detail work, I always judge miniatures by faces. I know that's not the only thing to judge them by. You judge them by, you know, scale and etc. But I always judge the quality of miniatures by faces, and these miniatures' faces are so good. Like, there's detail there. They would paint up phenomenally well. A lot of detail, a lot of good look to them. I would love to see them painted up. May even do that sometime for another painting video for Board Game Breakfast. But they look good on the table, just anywhere, just seeing them. The chunky, nice miniatures. The board itself looks cool. I do find the board a little bit lacking in detail. I get it. You're in an arena that's cyberpunk, so there's a good chance that it doesn't even exist anyway. I don't know the full lore. It came with a lore book, which is pretty awesome. So I don't know the full lore book behind this, but let's break down. So looks, the game looks great, right? I even like the way the dice look. It almost looks like a comic book. The way those exclamation marks look for the things on the dice and everything like that. But I think it looks good. That's hands down. We can finish there. Let's talk about the base game. The base game, it's, well, we don't have to talk about the base game. We just talk about them together with the primetime and the base game. They play really nicely. I love a game, a miniatures game that is miniatures focused, but also is very simple. You don't have a lot of if this, this, and then you do this. It's just pretty straightforward. You get your energy points based on what you have for energy. You use them. You can move if you want to and get into a scoring area. You can fight if you want to. You can do whatever you want. As long as you spend those action points, you can do whatever you want on your turn. And it's all listed there on the card. I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but it reminds me of Crisis Protocol in the way that it looks like it could be super complicated, but it's actually not. It's actually pretty straightforward and it's pretty simple when it comes to how to play this game. You could teach it very easily, and I've got to give them a huge thumbs up for the rulebook. The rulebook is one of the best rulebooks I've seen in a long time. In teaching the game, it manages to walk you through 4 or 5 turns, one activation with each character, and with each character it teaches you a new mechanic. I've never seen a rulebook quite do it like that, where it just walks you through and teaches you a new mechanic with each one, but that is really good. I love the way that's done. And once you read the rulebook, you're ready to play. Now, yes, there is an addendum book for things like when this triggers, what does this status effect mean, all that sort of stuff. Yes, like any miniatures game, but it manages to do so much with the player cards and with the base rulebook that you don't feel like, well, I don't really actually know how to play. I love HeroClix, but when I started HeroClix, you can read certain things and be like, I still don't know how to play because I don't know what any of these powers do. It's not the case. Everything's listed there on the text of the cards, and you're only dealing with 8 characters right now. Now, there are some expansions that you could get for this as well, but you're dealing with 8 characters, and you can really learn the characters pretty easy. So, looks great. It plays neat. I like the idea that you're playing this back and forth sort of almost soccer fight game, but having the ability to play with 4 players now also speeds up, so you're not having to worry about, boom, 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 just 2 people. It makes it a little bit more interesting because you're thinking, okay, well, we can team up on somebody, but they've also made it balanced where you can't just team up on somebody and get them out of the game. Well, they're going to be coming back in. So a lot of really cool stuff to see in the Aristeia series. Go check it out if you're into miniatures, especially cyberpunk. There's not a lot in that genre right now, but with Android and all that sort of stuff kind of not being a thing as much. But go check it out. You will not be unhappy with this game at all. But it looks great. It plays really neat. It's got tight mechanics and fun. Just so. That is Aristeia. I'm Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Bryan. Until next time, we'll see you.